Cassandra Williams from Educational Innovation 360. Today is your Fast Track Friday, which is Cassandra Williams Capsule, which is a dose of information from the lens of the administrator. So, all right, let's go ahead and add to the stage our topic for today. So today our topic is effective teacher observation and a principal's guide. I really say these are some tips that school leaders must do to retain teachers when it comes to really understanding what teachers want and really supporting them in the professional development mode. So let's go ahead and dive in, thinking about how do we enhance teacher growth as well as student achievement. Let's go ahead and dive in. Oh, I forgot. Today's sponsorship is by Pitch Feast. Kendrea over there, Pitch Feast, thank you very much for your sponsorship. Let's go ahead and look at what we're talking about today. Okay, so why do they matter? So we know teachers need support. And if you are in education, you know that you need exactly some guidance, some support, some cheerleaders, somebody to kind of guide you along the way of your expectations. So it does help improve instruction, really thinking about our observations and how can they affect teacher practices. Also, support and development. What are we doing to give regular feedback? I always say, if you're an administrator in the school building, you should be at least going by that personal teacher's classroom at least once a week or twice a week. They need to see repetitious movement from you to ensure that you are not only excited about them being there, but you care and you can make reference to other things that's happened in the previous days. So thinking of what that looks like. And also enhanced learning. We know with the principal lens, it's different, right? You are seeing it from the student's perspective, our students growing, our students learning. And then you are that trusted person. And last but not least, provide data. We as leaders always give 1 to 2 data points throughout the year, and then we track that data through the year. Your teachers are a part of that. And so when you're talking about ELA data, you're talking about ELA growth. If we are tracking those 2 to 3 data points, you are tracking that with that individual teacher so she can see her growth with her students. So always consider that, why they matter. Okay. Here are key components of, working with our teacher. And sometimes, granted, there are times when we are overwhelmed and we are like, oh, how do I not do this part? Or, ooh, do I have to do this part? But, in reality, when you skip a phase, that kind of hurts the teacher. So really thinking about, what are we doing to prepare our teacher? Are we planning with them, or are we just telling them to just send your lesson plans because I'm going to observe you next week? Really thinking about sitting with them, planning with them, so you know what is to come. You know what is planned for this observation. Clear objectives. So I've been in many classrooms, so I'm working with the principal and we're in there just to kind of align our lenses with what is happening in the classroom. And the struggle is 2 things. One, sometimes we don't have a clear objective, but if you would help plan with the teacher, then you would already set out a SMART goal or clear objective with the teacher. So thinking about what is your clear objective and what is the standard they're addressing. And of course, we know there are multiple things to address with the standard. So what is the individual learning target within the standard that they are addressing for that lesson? And then what is the objective? Really understanding all those components are crucial to ensuring that teachers get exactly what they want out of a lesson and the students know exactly what their aim is. Okay, I say this all the time. Feedback is crucial. So timely feedback. So feedback is a component which is crucially important, but what we realize is timely feedback has become one of those things. It was like, oh, okay, I'll let you know in a week your feedback evaluations, right? But now we're seeing, because technology and because you have access and because a lot of teachers are expecting the feedback, because feedback timely is related to technology and kind of ongoing feedback. So for example, if you are at your school and you give your teachers, hey, I'm going to respond to all of my emails, all my phone calls in 48 hours. That kind of should be your feedback when it comes to evaluation. There is nothing worse than a teacher presenting a lesson, giving her all dog and pony dance show, and then you don't get back to them until like a week later. Right? The lesson's gone. I don't remember what I did. I don't even remember what I fed my kids last night. So really thinking about how are you giving timely feedback and being able to debrief, to talk about, hey, here's some things I saw, here's some things I want to practice on, and then going in within a week or two to make sure those things are happening. All right, evidence-based tool. So another place sometimes where people skip is kind of the tool, using the tool effectively. So I've seen in many schools where people are using the tool, but they're like, yeah, we're not going to do this. I'm going to just give you this score for this because this doesn't really apply, right? So thinking of how you can tweak your tool to make it fit you and your school. You have the autonomy. You're paying for the tool, so call them and be like, hey, take this out of the tool, add this. I want to add this. Let's modernize our tools to make sure that we can address this. Hey, how you doing, Douglas? Great to see you. Oh, I love you, Douglas. Douglas from DePaul. Okay, so let's talk about our next point, right? Before the observation. So, of course, we're scheduling. Remember, we don't want to schedule and then cancel and then schedule because, again, teachers, we are working hard. We are doing all the things we can. And if there's a schedule in place, we expect you to be there. We expect you to show up for us, okay? And so looking at observations, time. And so if your teacher says, don't come in fourth period, I don't want you to come in fourth period. And there's a reason, because they want to show their best. And if they don't say come in fourth period, that should be something to you like, so I'm not going to do your formal observation with fourth period, but let's talk about fourth period and how we can, optimize and support you in the fourth period model. Teachers are really honest sometimes when there are areas they want to see. I always say, try to do it during the day. After students have had their lunch, they turn into, I don't know what the moon is out or whatever, but thinking about how do we support our students maybe before lunch. So always have your observations before lunch. It's just a better outcome. And so clear communications with the teacher, always review the context of what you're going to do and get your tool ready to go and think about what next. Okay, now during the observation, here's what I love to do is really thinking about detailed note taking. What am I doing to record? We usually, so now we're using AI at Educational Innovation 360. And one of the things we do is with our observations, with teacher comments, when there's a teacher comment, it automatically ties it to Danielson's standard. And so the standard automatically goes into place. Thinking of what tool are you using and how the tool can automate some of the, the things that are, that their standard is tied to, like we do. And so when you talk about, 1 or 2 points, it automatically goes in the categories and puts the categories based on the number you have, because you can go back and do the numbers after you made the evaluation. But when you're talking about detailed note taking, I always do a running record because I always like to recall what happened and at what time. So it's like, what time are we doing this? What is the incident that's happening, and what is my question or feedback around that? Really thinking about running records. So all the time I can always go back and say, hey, when John didn't understand, it was about 15 minutes into the lesson, John didn't understand, you saw the look, you saw him raise his hand, but you continued to go on with the lesson. What are some things we could do there? And then I would note take that. And then of course my AI tool would kind of align it with a Danielson framework or a TNTP framework, and then we would move on from there. And then I would have my notes juxtaposed with AI, with technology, and then support the teacher. So always focus on interaction. So when we're talking about the observation, we want to document what the teacher is doing, how the student responded. These are my key points. And then if I see something constantly occurring, I will constantly zero in on that. So if I see maybe there's proximity, or if I see content issues and I know that's a big over umbrella issue, then I am definitely going to zero in on that issue and talk about content throughout the rest of the running record. So having that eye and that lens on, okay, if we could get this one area, oh my God, we can grow so much. And then now I have to let the teacher know, I see this one area that you're struggling with, and let me tell you within that content area, some of the things that I see you struggling with. So when our debrief and our focus is going to be on that struggling area. Okay, so next is, of course, we said timestamp records, where you're marking the time, pacing, and things like that. But last is evidence collection. What evidence are you collecting with samples, student work? And I always do not leave that classroom without student work. Do not, I'm gonna say that again, don't leave the classroom without some type of student work so you can have, again, evidence of the product, right? So you are, after you've done your running record, you're walking around, you're getting feedback from the students, like, what was that lesson? Did you understand what the teacher was teaching? Can you explain it back to me? And then going over to see the actual papers, and then with the papers, you get an analysis like, maybe 15 out of 20 understood the concept, follow with your notes, follow with your feedback. And then for the 1 or 2 or 3 that were really struggling, didn't have anything on their paper, and the teacher maybe didn't see that, you can either quickly take a picture, take a picture, or say, what's your name? Okay, great. Oh yeah. Okay, so come on, write your name on a paper, and then you write John's name on the paper, and then that is a part of your debrief. Say, hey, I noticed John is having struggles. You're like, yeah, well, John's having struggles. Let me tell you why. Right. So really being able to do that during your observation so you can provide effective feedback. Okay, we're done. Observation done. Now really thinking about what is our evidence. Okay. Reviewing all the collected data. So you got student samples, you got student work, you got student comments from the lesson, you have your running record, you have your track data, you have the teacher's pacing, so you know how much time she spent on each of the lesson. So I know this seems overwhelming, but hey, this is what we got to do. So after you have all that, you have your feedback preparation. How do you prepare feedback? We always say you prepare feedback with the sandwich method, right? The sandwich method is the positive thing, the something you have to work out, or a question that we may have about the lesson, and then a positive to end positive. And make sure, some teachers are struggling, to be honest, but make sure you have something positive, even if it's the bulletin board on the wall that makes reflection to the context that they're doing in the classroom. Some type of feedback that is helpful for teacher growth, okay? And timely conference within hopefully 48 hours so teachers can recall, teachers can remember what happened in the lesson. Sometimes it's great to have it during that day. It doesn't hurt to have all your conferences during that day, but that takes a lot of preparation. And then what is our focus of growth? What is the thing that we want to improve? And what is the 1 to 2 things we're working on? So don't give me, as a teacher, 4 to 5 things that I need to work on. Give me 1 to 2 things. And those are the things that you're going to come in periodically to kind of see if I am improving on those things. And you are going to, as the principal, note those things that I have improved every time you see me, because that is something we're working on, and make sure it's aligned to the district goal. Okay, effective feedback strategies. I'm going to run through this because I'm already 12 minutes in. So thinking about your goals, okay, always self-reflect. So I'm always analyzing how the teacher sees me, her emotions, her reactions. Is she crying? Is she sitting beside me? That is one of the things I see some of our new principals struggle with, is sitting across the table, right? There's this dynamic. You're sitting in the chair. I'm sitting at a desk, right? I'm sitting at your teacher desk. How like pompous of me to sit at your teacher desk. But the goal is for you to sit beside your teacher to support them. So it changes the hierarchy dynamic at that moment, but you want to make sure you give them the support they need. All right, again, evidence-based examples, finding specific evidence, and then a SMART goal based on 1 or 2 things, because you don't want to overwhelm them with 4 or 5 things that they need to fix. And then they're like really overwhelmed. Okay, so to wrap this up, here we go. Best practices, things that you must do to be a highly effective principal. Really thinking about frequent mini observations, always going in the classroom, always noting the things, always getting personal information about the teacher. If her dog died, apologize about the dog. But it's not only that type of evidence to where it's anecdotal evidence, but we also want to personalize the things that we're doing. So many observations, be like, hey, I'm so sorry, I heard about this, I just want to check in on you, right? And then say, hey, I really like what you did the other day, right? So always mentally noting what I need to talk to that teacher about to build that relationship, and to note that she is improving on her practice. So going in often is crucial. Diverse observation tools, right? We want to think about diversity, and I'm always thinking about through the lens of diversity. How are you showing up for your ELL learners, right? So your multi-language learners, what are they in the back? Are we in groups? what is going on, so to where you can support all of our learners who are struggling in the classroom. What are some techniques? What are some call and response things that you're using? What are some whole group? What are some boards up, boards down, thumbs up, fist to five, whatever you are doing to engage all students, and are students sitting for 30 minutes and not responding? Students should be responding. Okay, so, and consistency and fairness, making sure you're equal. One of the things I see is when students raise their hand, John is always called. How many times did you call on John? That's a thing, that's a problem. So what, either popcorn or whatever you're doing to pull, maybe cold calls, or, make sure you're getting around to everybody so everybody gets a chance to participate, even if it's a fun activity. And then work on continuous improvement. Always get self-reflection. I always use surveys to see how our teachers are doing. Oh my God, I'm already at the 15-minute mark. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Next week, again, thank you for our sponsorship pitch feast. And next week, we're going to talk about leading a school with data-driven decisions. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks, Douglas, for the shout out. I appreciate you guys, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.